Okay, folks, listen up. This is real important. It's a real important story, and it's probably going to be a real important story going forward. Remember when last year, right about this time, maybe a little later, last year we were talking about those blog articles like black men or the white men of the black community or the white people of black people, that kind of stuff. And then there was another one talking about how black men are terrorists on a blog post. And then we had the FBI thing talk right after that, maybe a few weeks later, talking about the black identity extremists. Remember that? Remember that stuff that was going on like within a matter of like a couple of months. We saw these kind of things pop up, right? We're telling you to watch out for that, because it was setting in motion a precedence that may have more impact coming down the line. And I said we should be on alert for it. And thank God most black men were. Now, that was a year ago. Now look at this. This is something that's been in the headlines for maybe the last week or so, about these kids found in New Mexico, in the Mexican compound. And I thought it was really very curious, because they never gave the color of the kids or anything else like that. But look at what's coming out of here now over the past day or so, and really pay attention to this. Really pay attention to this. This is a compilation from Zero Hedge, which is normally pretty accurate. Not always, but normally I would give them like a 95% accuracy rating as far as what they're talking about. They're slanted towards the right, but listen to this, okay? I'm gonna read the article, this blog post from Zero Hedge. So I actually saw several articles about the same thing, but I'm gonna read the article about this. I may read the other two, but this is a pretty much up-to-date post, and it gives you a direction. It's probably the most extreme of these particular posts. That's like I'm reading it. The other ones are kind of mild, okay? It is titled, Heavily Armed Muslim Extremists Arrested in New Mexico. Trained 11 children to commit school shootings. This is from Zero Hedge by Tyler Durden. Update. Fox News reports that Wahaj father is an unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing. Wahaj's family background was already controversial prior to his arrest. Wahaj is the son of a Brooklyn imam, also named Sergey Wahaj, who was named by a prosecutor as an unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing, the New York Post reported. The elder Wahaj, who heads Masjid's Attaqwa Mosque, was a character witness in the trial for the Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman, the notorious blind sheikh who was convicted in 1995 of plotting terror attacks in the U.S. Huraj and Subhana Wahaj, who is married to Morton, are Wahaj Sr.'s daughters. The younger Wahaj is married to Laville, the New York Post reported, citing public records and statements the imam made in a January Facebook post. It's from Fox News, showing you the picture of the dude, Wahaj. Authority looking for a missing 4-year-old Georgia boy says his father and another man were training nearly a dozen children at a remote New Mexico compound to commit shootings with assault rifles. And it showed that this is reported in a few newspapers, where I saw it in the New York Times and the Los Angeles Times. While police didn't find the toddler, Abdul Ghani Wahaj, who went missing in December in Jonesboro, Georgia, authorities discovered 11 other children ranging in age from 1 to 15 years old held in the saddest living conditions and poverty I have ever seen. While the remains of a boy were also found on the compound, which have not yet been positively identified by medical examiners. Authorities say the father of the 3-year-old told the mother that he wanted to perform an exorcism on the child, and he was bringing the boy to a park, after which he never returned. Shiraj Ibn Wahaj, 39, and Lucas Morton were operating the makeshift compound in Amelia, New Mexico, and were described as heavily armed and considered extremists of the Muslim belief by Taos County Sheriff Jeffrey Hargriffey, said in a statement posted to the agency's Facebook page on Saturday. Sheriff Hargriffey said the authorities surveilled the compound and decided to obtain a search warrant immediately after a Georgia investigator forwarded a message from someone at the compound who reportedly said they were starving and needed water. On Friday morning, August 3rd, 2018, 8 members of Tasco's Sheriff Response Team, SRT, were assisted by 4 members of the state OSI unit when they executed the search warrant. The all-day operation went without major incident or any injuries, but when encountered, both men initially refused to follow verbal direction, and Wahaj, who was held up inside the compound, was heavily armed with an AR-15 rifle, 5 loaded round magazines, and 4 loaded pistols, including one in his pocket when he was taken down. Many more rounds of ammo were found in the makeshift compound that consists of a small travel trailer buried in the ground, covered by plastic with no water, plumbing, or electricity. The only food we saw were a few potatoes and a box of rice in the filthy trailer, said Hawkfree. But what was most surprising and heartbreaking was when the team located a total of 5 adults and 11 children that looked like third world refugees, not only with no food or fresh water, but with no shoes, personal hygiene, and basically dirty rags for clothing. However, the missing child from Georgia was not located among the children. The message sent to a third party simply said, in part, "We are starving and need food and water," Hargriffey said. "I absolutely knew that we couldn't wait on another agency to step up, and we had to go check this out as soon as possible." While the suspects initially refused to surrender to authorities, they were later taken into custody without injury. 3 women believed to be the children's mothers were also arrested. Jenny Leville, 35, Haraj Wahaj, 38, and Subhana Wahab, 35. The women were initially released after questioning Friday, but were later arrested on charges of neglect and child abuse after further investigation, according to police. 4 months, neighbors worried about the squalid compound built along a remote New Mexico plain, saying they brought their concerns to authorities months before sheriff's officials raided the encampment and described it as a small camping trailer in the ground. Authorities said during the raid Friday that they had found the father armed with multiple firearms, including an assault rifle. They also believed there was a shooting range on the site. The group arrived in Amelia in December with enough money to buy groceries and construction supplies, according to Tyler Anderson, a 41-year-old auto mechanic who lives nearby. Anderson says he met both of the men from the group, but never the women. "We just figured they were doing what we were doing, getting a piece of land and getting off the grid," said Anderson. And that is the end of the Zero Hedge article. Let me check the time real quick. All right. Let me go ahead and read the other one. I think this one is from the LA Times, but it's fairly short. Man at New Mexico compound trained kids for school shooting, prosecutor says. A New Mexico sheriff said searchers have found the remains of a boy at a makeshift compound that was raided in search of a missing Georgia child. The father of a missing Georgia boy was training children at a New Mexico compound to commit school shootings, prosecutors said in court. In court documents obtained Wednesday, the document said Siraj Ibn Wahaj was conducting weapons training with assault rifles at the compound near the Colorado border, where 1,100 children were found in filthy conditions. Prosecutor Timothy Hansen filed the documents while asking Wahaj to be held without bail after he was arrested last week with 4 other adults facing child abuse charges. Prosecutors did not bring up the school shooting accusation in court on Wednesday during an initial appearance by the abused suspects. Authorities say the remains of a boy were also found at the compound, but they have not been positively identified by medical examiners. The child, Abdul Ghani Wahaj, went missing in December in Jonesboro, Georgia, near Atlanta. Authorities says his father had told the boy's mother that he wanted to perform an exorcism on the child. He later said that he was taking the child to a park and didn't return. For months, neighbors worried about the squalid compound built along the remote New Mexico plain, saying they took their concerns to authorities months before the sheriff officials raided the encampment and described as a small camping trailer in the ground. Authorities said that the raid Friday that they had found the father armed with multiple firearms, including an assault rifle. They also said they believed there was a shooting range on the site. The group arrived in Amelia in December with enough money to buy groceries. Blah, 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 blah. We read that. He said he helped the newcomers install solar panels after they arrived, but eventually stopped visiting. Anderson said he met both of the men in the group, but never the women, who authorities said are the mothers of the 11 children ages 1 to 15. Anderson did not recall seeing the Georgia boy who was missing, but he said some of the smaller children from the compound turned up to play with children at neighboring properties after the group first arrived. We just figured they were doing what we were doing, getting a piece of land, getting off the grid. As the months passed, however, they were stopped seeing the smaller children playing in the area. They also stopped hearing guns fired off at the shooting range on the property, he said. Like, these people have been there for months, like for damn near a year. And they heard, like they said, they thought there were black folks getting off the grid, and they still might be. Now, I'm not saying that they said they found the remains of a young boy on the grounds. That could be anything. I'm not saying that these people aren't out there. They very well could be. But to say that black folks in the middle of the desert around white folks firing off guns and white people complaining about them, hell, cops show up if you're sitting in Starbucks. To say that you're in basically a white area, New Mexico is not a black area, okay? You have a compound of black people with Muslim names that show up in New Mexico around white folks with guns and little children, and people report it to the cops and they don't show up. I'm not saying that something's not fishy. And I'm not saying that these people aren't who they, who they appear to be. And I'm not saying that this group wasn't out there trying to survive off the grid. Solar panels. It sounds like they're fairly sophisticated. Solar panels, a buried camper. Maybe they ran out of money. I don't know if they ran out of money or they couldn't grow crops. I have no idea what the compound actually is. The compound looks kind of barren. And they said the 11 children that they found belonged to the four women of the group. And the boy that they said they were looking for, wasn't there. And the little boy is still missing. But it sounded like they intended to raid that compound. I don't know what condition they found these children in. It could have been exactly as presented. But the women in the pictures look clean. The men in the pictures look clean. They don't look like they're dirty. They don't look like they're hungry. Where they're out there starving children. Let's put it this way. We need for more information to actually come out. Because the pictures that I've seen, they don't look dirty. They don't look unwashed. They look clean. They didn't show obviously for obvious reasons, they didn't show the children. But obviously in the court records, they never accused of these people of training these children to actually commit school shootings. That doesn't sound correct. That sounds fishy. But had we not stopped that crap going on about black identity extremists, this would have slided right in. This would have slided right in and gave them cause to go after more people or more groups or even more individuals. Now, I don't know enough about this particular case or this particular group to say that what the cops say about them is or isn't true, because nobody's come forward that's associated with these people and actually said the opposite, at least not to my knowledge. Maybe some of you subs out there can actually dig something up and give out more information, because this is going to be an ongoing story. But I have a feeling they're going to attach a lot of things to this particular group, like they attached this dude to the Blind Sheik back with the the attempted World Trade bombings back in 1993. Now this dude was unindicted. The guy that then was unindicted, and now his son winds up in this particular case. Now we know doggone well, if your father's an unindicted conspirator, they follow the whole family. The FBI is going to be in on the whole family, and if something's going on with guns or anything unusual, trust and believe the FBI and Homeland Security is going to be keeping an eye on you. They knew about this guy for months. Why they decided to actually come in, raid the compound now, I don't know. Not enough breadcrumbs to follow, to make a line to actually follow a trail. We're going to have to wait for more breadcrumbs on this one, but this is something that we need to keep an eye on. I got a feeling in my gut and a tingling in my nose that we haven't heard the last of this. This is going to be something else ongoing. If we line that up with the Nike, what's going on in Chicago with the shootings and the Nike truck, it could point to more action, more covert action towards black males especially. Not saying that it is, not saying that it isn't, but I would, dollars to donut, I would keep an eye on this. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. This is BGS out, and I will see you guys on the next one.